and welcome to Sport Tonight. I'm Cecilia Omogbe in Lagos.
What a greetings to you wherever you are in the world watching us in London. I'm Austin Okonakwan. Cecilia, big night in Europe. It's the Europa League. We've gotten our semi-finalists in the UEFA Champions League. We want to see teams that will make it in the Europa League. At the moment, it's Sevilla 1, Manchester United 0. And you know, we keep saying it as Sevilla. They love the Europa League. And tonight, they've actually shown that they really do love the Europa League, Cecilia.
They're telling us that, and of course, Juventus, they are also not smiling. They also want to get into the semi-finals of that. What's the update on Juve? Still 1-1?
Still 1-1, you know, and this is good times for league football in Italy. We've got the Milan derby in the UEFA Champions League. It will be good to see Juve, you know, championing the beats that the Italian teams are already showing this year in Europe.
All right, we're going to be having a whole lot to talk about on the program concerning updates from Europa League. But then this is how the show is looking like this evening. We'll be talking about Europa League, of course, giving you updates as it happens right there across the world. Also, we'll take a look at what happened yesterday at the National Stadium, the mast that actually, you know, fell, the floodlights mast that actually fell down at the National Stadium. Reactions coming from the sports minister on how they can actually restructure and, of course, see how they can repair that stadium. Also, we'll take a look at the FIFA Women's World Cup. The trophy tour is still going around the world, and this time around made a stop in Toronto in Canada. Also, NWFL, we have all the 6 teams complete. The 6th slot has been filled. It was FC Robo that filled the last spot of the Super Six. Of course, Delta Queens, all through the season, for the first time, you're having a team in NWFL remaining unbeaten all through the season. But then, you know, you have the Super Six. That's when it's going to happen if Delta Queens can continue that run they had in the regular season. Also, we'll take a look at the Champions League games that were played last night. Austin mentioned Inter Milan, the Milan derby we're expecting, of course. And again, you have Real Madrid and Manchester City meeting. Remember what happened last season when City won the first leg 4-3, and they went to Santiago Bernabeu. What happened? Real Madrid won 3-1. At the end of the day, it was 6-5 on aggregate. So close, but no cigar for Manchester City. What can they do again this season? We'll talk about that. Of course, the title race, Mikel Arteta, he's a talking tough. The FSC Southampton draws back-to-back, losing, conceding 2 goals after going 2-0 up. That's what happened against Liverpool. And, of course, it happened against West Ham. We don't repeat that in Southampton. Coach Mikel Arteta has been talking about that. Austin is a loaded package tonight. There's so much to talk about on Sports Tonight.
That's what it is, Cecilia. It's an action-packed world of sports, you know, and whenever we have an opportunity to go on this fun ride, we take it. What a story right here in England. The English Premier League getting everyone talking. Manchester United, Manchester City, they're on course for the treble. But let's see what they can do first when they take on Sheffield Wednesday in the FA Cup, and then take on Arsenal next week Wednesday before we start thinking about the UEFA Champions League. But I know you're pumped up for the FIFA Women's World Cup, so it's ladies first. Let's go with that, Cecilia.
All right, I'll go with the FIFA Women's World Cup. And, of course, we're starting with this one. The trophy tour is going around, and it made a visit in Toronto. That's the stop right there. Before we talk about that, Austin, let's just quickly talk about the sports minister. Yes, okay, yeah, we'll go to the trophy tour first, where you have the trophy tour arriving in Toronto, Canada. And as we mentioned on this show, and of course from FIFA, it's only heads of states and, of course, former winners that can actually touch it when it arrives in every country. It's made its 16th stop in Canada. And, of course, you know, 32 teams competing in this year's event. And you have, it's going to travel to 27 of those states. It was in Nigeria, and it came to Abuja, and Captain Onomembi was one of those who received that. She said she couldn't touch it because Nigeria hasn't won it. So at the end of the day, she just couldn't touch it, expecting that maybe this time around, Nigeria can win it, of course. Maybe next time it comes, she will be able to. It's a long dream, but then you're free to dream. And sometimes dreams do come true. But then this FIFA Women's World Cup this year, it's going to start July 20th and end August 20th. So this trophy was designed in 1998 and, of course, made of gold plated. Austin is going across the world. But then let's take a listen to the Australian High Commission and also New Zealand High Commission, who actually marked this event in Toronto, and also former player of the Canada national women's team.
Now, I do understand that in recent years, the Canadian women's soccer team has had it over the Matildas, the Australian soccer team. But I can tell you that as well as being great hosts for major sporting events of all types, but particularly events like the Women's Football World Cup, Australians also have a habit of lifting in front of the home crowd. So our final group stage game is, of course, Australia versus Canada on July 31 in Melbourne, my former hometown. Famous for its passionate and large sporting crowds and its sporting culture, and I'm sure the Matildas will lift in front of that hometown crowd. So many thanks for joining us all here today, for taking part in this event to raise the profile of this very important and what will be undoubtedly incredibly successful global sporting event.
Aotearoa New Zealand sees the FIFA World Cup 2023 as a great opportunity to inspire people, especially women and girls. And we value being able to engage with new audiences and showcase everything that we have to offer. This World Cup, it rounds off an amazing 2 years where New Zealand has been at the centre of some incredible women's sport. We also hosted the Women's Rugby World Cup and the Women's Cricket World Cup. These events were milestones in raising the value and the visibility of women's sport, in growing female participation, and in creating new female sporting heroes and leaders.
This is the first time we're seeing it, and then the team this summer goes and wins the thing. Like Robin said, we've had such success at the Olympic Games, and the only thing left is winning the World Cup, and then looking forward to seeing this trophy again later in the summer when they bring it back home.
All right, Austin, I mean, when the trophy tour comes to your country, everyone really, every country that has been to, I mean, the idea is actually to win it. The dream is for them to win it. But you have to do a whole lot to win this trophy. USA happens to be the most successful team. They will be trying to defend it for the third time in a row. No team has ever done that, managing to win the World Cup 3 times. Not the men, no, the women. USA are the teams to beat this tournament this year.
That's right, and Cecilia, the dominance is a clear testament of the sort of work that the United States of America women's soccer team have done, you know, to be this dominant in women's football. I wouldn't be surprised if they go on to win it again because they are pumped up, and the U.S. women's soccer team, I think they're just built around those records, you know, because they know that they are the team to beat. But let's stay with what the objective of the trophy tour is all about. You know, it's for teams to feel that the World Cup is around the corner. It's for people to look at the trophy and get inspired, and in some way be motivated. When it was in Nigeria, the Super Falcons captain Onomebi saw it, and she was just staring and wishing and believing that, you know, the Super Falcons can do big things in Australia and New Zealand. And when we had her on this show last week, she reiterated that same desire and zeal that they have, you know, getting ready to go for the World Cup. So the trophy tour will continue until the World Cup comes, and it's a good opportunity for participating teams to, you know, have a glimpse of the World Cup, you know, think about what it will look like, the feeling to lift it, to be crowned champions. Woo! Dreams do come true.
Yeah, it does. Just hope and pray for it. All right, let's talk about this one that happened on Wednesday morning in Lagos, Nigeria, and of course, precisely the National Stadium Surulere in Lagos, where you have the floodlights mast. I mean, it's been standing since 1972. That's when the stadium was built. And this is one of the masts. There are 4 masts around the stadium. And when you're driving to Surulere, I mean, you see the mast very high, you know, when you're driving. But it fell down, half of it. And of course, the story now is that the Sports Ministry have actually dispatched, you know, the head of facilities to go right there and see what really happened. But when you built a stadium since 1973, 1972, not much maintenance. And recently, we know the Sports Minister was there, you know, on tour of the facilities. They started a partial rehabilitation of the stadium, but the money that was quoted, about 21 billion or thereabouts, and people were saying it wasn't really enough. But when you built a stadium for so long, there was no maintenance. I mean, since 2004, that was the last time you had any game being played in that. And then when this happened, on Wednesday night. I mean, that's when the whole story came out again, that they actually need to look at this edifice and find out how you can actually refurbish this, put money in it, and make sure it's looking better again. Austin, this is not the story we want to hear, but we thank God that really at the time it happened, it was raining, and so no casualties or anything happened. Just half of it, and then you're having these iconic floodlight masts, falling down at the National Stadium in Surulere.
More terrible things will happen to this National Stadium in Surulere, Cecilia, until we give it attention. This stadium, this edifice has been left to rot since the year 2000. This stadium hosted Nigeria, Ghana 2000 Africa Cup of Nations. I just don't understand how we just abandoned the stadium. Before I left Nigeria, I'd done about 7 reports about the National Stadium in Surulere, telling different ministers, telling the federal government that, look, we need to give attention to this. It's just the Mazas. Follow now, wait till the entire piece starts falling apart. And that was the line I used. I said things have started falling apart inside the main bowl of the National Stadium in Surulere. It's so disappointing. This stadium has got history. Nigeria, we won our first AFCON in 1980, right inside the stadium. And I just don't understand how you just bury your tradition, bury your history, bury everything that speaks well about sports in Nigeria. So when this mast came down, I said, oh, thank God it was just the mast. But more things will happen. Sunday Dare and his team under the Adopt a Pitch initiative, they've tried to see how they can bring this thing back to life. But it has been abandoned for so long, so it requires so much money to fix it. And that's what you get when you've left something that long. In fact, it's taken. The National Stadium Surulere isn't a place for you to go to, because the moment you see the edifice, you start feeling bad. So it goes beyond assessing the damage. Ministry of Youth and Sports Development, maybe this will now make us sit down and say, what do we really want to do with the National Stadium in Surulere? Because it goes beyond just fixing the scoreboard or the playing pitch. How about the stadium itself? Because we always think that when the pitch is all right, then we've got a stadium. No, it's all about the environment, the ambience. It's supposed to be complete stadium experience. It's sad, but I see more terrible things happening to the National Stadium in Surulere if it doesn't get the sort of attention that it needs.
That prediction is bold. I'm not surprised because things like that are likely to happen, especially when you leave a structure. It's not being in use, and of course, no refurbishment, no rehabilitation, nothing, no maintenance. It's bound to be like that. But then Bolu Omoni joins us now to have more on this discussion concerning the National Stadium. I mean, that edifice that everyone loved, iconic stadium. But right now, we're afraid that it's falling apart.
Is it that it's falling apart or it has fallen apart already? Like, it felt like Austin picked the words from my mouth. The first things fall apart. Unfortunately, it's National Stadium falling apart. We should... I tell people that England, for example, they have the stadiums for secondary schools alone in England is more than all the good pitches we have in Nigeria. Not to talk of universities, clubs, and everything. Can we do the same thing? Yes, we can. Are we ready? No, like Austin rightly said, we focus more on the pitch. But a stadium, especially a national stadium, a multi-purpose national stadium, is beyond the pitch. Handball court is there. The last time I remember the activity of handball court was maybe 2005-06, when we used to play 5-a-side there. Imagine playing 5-a-side in the handball court. Handball court was dead. Swimming pool was active at some point. I don't know what's going on there again. Basketball is probably the only place that, they still do competitions and things like that regularly. That structure is just there. Sometimes we just do, we need to do maybe some things, patch it 1, 2, 3. No, that thing is beyond patching. If it means bringing it down to rebuild again, I don't mind, so long that place is active. See what happened to Teslim. We needed to hurriedly do some things, we put it up. After that, it's been abandoned. People are now using it for different events, churches and all. I think we should have grown beyond that. Hopefully this is a learning curve for that. If we abandon stuff like this for too long, it may crumble. Like everyone has said, thankfully, kids were not around. Thankfully, people were not loitering around. It could have been worse. The casualty could have been worse. So hopefully we learn from this, investigate what really happened, and not just investigate and write textbook. No, give the pointers and let's work towards it. Hopefully we get to see our stadium.
I don't know why you're having to investigate. It's obvious.
This thing is dead.
Brainstorm. I mean, that's 1972. It's 51 years.
It's long. I can't even remember the last time they played any match there. I mean, national match, not just a proper competition there. I can't remember. I'm sure I was a little boy when they played any proper match at that stadium.
I remember when the FIFA on the 17th World Cup, right? That we
Nigeria 99.
Nigeria 99. I think it was used. Was it parking space or training pitch or something? I know no game to actually play there. Yep. Not even one. It was Teslim that they were using. Why they became more like
Shere pitch. Like our own edifice. Nah.
Let's leave that and quickly go to NWFL. Yes, this will make us happy because finally we have a team who remained unbeaten all through the season. It's always hard for you to have a team, having a smooth run in the NWFL simply because, teams are tough. Yes, we have the abridged version. Yes, the games are not much, but the fact that they have to play all their games, then you go into the Super Six and the top teams played against each other. That has actually given a boost to the Nigerian Women's Football League. Now, let's take a look at the results from what happened on Wednesday night. And, of course, this morning, remember the game between Edo Queens and Abia Angels. That game was abandoned, suspended, because of brainstorm. And then it was played by 8 a.m. today. And Edo Queens actually won that. Now, let's take a look at what we have on the final day results starting from Group A. Delta Queens, of course, led the way, finishing unbeaten. Rivers Angels couldn't hurt that. We thought the final day, it may just happen, but then they maintained that unbeaten run all through. It was a draw against Rivers Angels. And the game between Bayelsa Queens and Niger Rattles, that ended 3-0 in favor of course, the home team. And the games between FC Robo and Confluence was focused more on that. Most of the guys that have been coming here, they wanted FC Robo to be in the Super Six. Well, the ladies did everyone justice. They were able to make it into the Super Six. National Amazon, a little too late for them. 5 goals, but then they just couldn't make it into the Super Six. They finished below top 4. And Heartland and Royal Queens, it ended in favor, of course, of Heartland. They just wanted to play their final game, not going anywhere in relegation, and no Super Six spot for them. But then the good thing is they're staying in the NWFL. So this is what it's looking like. So at the final, if we have the table, the final table shows the teams that have qualified for the Super Six. There you have it. Delta Queens, Bayelsa Queens, and Rivers Angels. As I mentioned earlier, Delta Queens, after 12 matches, 7 wins they had this season, 5 draws, and no losses, not even one at all. Then goal difference of 14. They were high scoring side, of course, points 26. Yeah, Bayelsa Queens, after 12 games, 7 wins also. Same thing with Delta Queens. The difference is they lost just 1 game this season, goal difference of 14 and 25. Rivers Angels, they started so poorly, but they were able to sneak into the Super Six after 12 games. They won 5 games this season. They drew 5 and 2 losses, of course, goal difference. Yeah, this season they didn't have the goal scorers they used to have. It was hard for them to even get goals. Let's flip over to Group. Yes, flip over to Oshun Babes, already relegated. Flip over to Group B, where you have Edo Queens. I mean, this was how they started the season, and this was how they ended. When they started the season, they were on top until Abia Angels went to Benin City to give them their first defeat of the season. And they ended up losing 3 this season, 1 draw, and of course 8 wins. They happen to be the only team that won up to 8 matches, followed by Delta Queens and Bayelsa Queens, who won 7 each. And of course, FC Robo ended up winning 7 games. They've been in the last 4 games. They decided to take the bulls by the horn and get into the Super Six, and that was what they did. Just 1 draw, but then 4 losses this season, a goal difference of 13, and they finished second. Confluence Queens, of course, after the final game, they finished on 21 points, 3 losses this season, 3 draws, and 6 wins. And of course, Ibom Angels conceded, yeah, that's the goals right there. 2 wins this season. Of course, how many games they lost? They lost 10. There was no draw for them. If they're losing, they lose so much. And if they're drawing, none. And when they're winning, well, it's hard for the goals to come. So it was just 2 wins at this season for Ibom Angels. Of course, that's why Ibom Angels and Oshun, they are relegated. For you, let's just leave a summary of how the season was for you.
Well, football in Nigeria is weird, especially our league. If there's problem from the source, it affects everything across board. Look at Akwa Ibom State, for example. Ibom Angels will get relegated. Dakada look like they're going down. Akwa United are still somehow shaky. Look at Edo State. Bendel Insurance top of the table unbeaten in the men's, their own group. Edo Queens also top of the table in the group. But yes, it doesn't guarantee them winning, but it shows they are probably doing something well. They are doing what many are not doing. And I think one of the things I'm more impressed with, not for the buyers this time around, is FC Robo. Remember, they started poorly, and I was a bit worried for them, but FC Robo picked themselves. So this is what we say about champion stuff in code. They picked themselves up. Similar to what happened to Rivers Angels last season. It was all about Bayelsa Queens all through, until they got to the Super Six. Then Rivers Angels just stepped up and they ended up winning. So let's see what happens in the Super Six for this time around. But I'm more impressed. Robo needed a draw. The only way draw wouldn't have taken them through is if Nasser Amazon has scored maybe, I think, 7 or thereabout. But they felt, okay, let's end in style. It's better to start poorly and end well and go to the Super Six with good form than to start the season all guns blazing. Then when it comes to the latter stages of the competition, it now start faltering. So I'm impressed with Robo Queens, how they ended their season. Of course, Edo Queens every day, every time, and you cannot take anything away from Delta Queens. Those girls are playing like they are here to win. Like you rightly said, the worst they get out of every game is a draw. And even the draw, the opposition know that you will sweat to pick out that draw from them. I'm impressed with everything about the women's game especially. Maybe not so much for the lower division, but the top divisions, I think they are doing everything positive.
All right, everything positive. We'll get to take a short break, and of course, when we come back, Austin will chip in on this. Austin, what a final day FC Robo had. We talked about it last week because we said they need to pick that point because of what that club represents across Nigeria.
Well, it's not just about FC Robo. To an extent, people will feel Nasarawa Amazons also deserve to be in the Super Six. I think they do because they've done enough to, show that they can be a competitive side in the Women's Football League. But FC Robo, no doubt, particularly with everything that they've achieved in the last 3 to 5 years, it will be good to see them. But then again, shout out to the teams that made it competitive. We knew at the end of the day it would be either Nassau Amazons or FC Robo, particularly the team that gets to score more goals. And it's just a clear testament that the Nigerian Women's Football League is getting better. It's competitive. It's growing. These ladies understand the need to contribute to the growth of the game by giving us a good show of their talent. So we're waiting to see what the Super Six will look like. And if you take a look at the teams that have made it, from Group A, Delta Queens, Bayelsa Queens, and Rivers Angels. From Group B, Edo Queens, FC Robo Queens, and Confluence Queens. Those 6 teams deserve to be, at the Super Six. For the team as Delta Queens, they will be saying to themselves, if we can go 12 games unbeaten, then we deserve to win it. But the Super Six comes with a different temperature. You get to the Super Six now, Rivers Angel starts telling you who is the boss, You get to the Super Six now, and then Confluence Queens are telling you that, look, we can create upsets, But at the end of the day, Cecilia, I'm glad that during the regular season we saw beautiful football. The football is growing, it's competitive. A shout out to the administrators of the Women's Football League in Nigeria.
Yeah, that's what we're expecting, that when NFF is going to constitute the board, they have to put the right people in place to ensure that, yes, this success can be built on and have another successful season. And let's just take a look at, to confirm the teams that have been, that are qualified for the Super Six and also those that have been relegated. Okay, just read that we have a Delta Queens, Bayelsa Queens, Edo Queens, Confluence Queens, FC Robo, and of course you have Rivers Angels. These are the teams that made it. Of course, Oshun Babes and Ibom Angels, they've been relegated from it. Let's just take a listen to reactions coming from the game between Confluence Queens and FC Robo.
This game means a lot to the league, not only me alone. This game means a lot to the league, and I give God the glory we are able to escape, but I have seen my lapses. But the problem is not that, FC Robo is an individual team. If it's a government team, we can buy the kind of player we want. But I need to train the kind of player I want.
I feel so good. I really thank God for the game. We really did well. We performed well. We really did well. Thank God. Our target is to qualify for the CAF Cup. Yeah.
We lost to FC Robo. I wouldn't say the performance was too bad, but in a game like this, I think a team is expected to win, a team is expected to lose, and a team is expected to draw. But it didn't go our way today, the way we expected. And by the end of the day, I think we lost the game, but we know where we are. We want to go back home and because the Super Six, we are hoping that maybe in 3 weeks or a month time, the Super Six proper will start. I think just to go back home now and look at the last weeks we had in today's match and forge ahead.
When you're playing away matches, we feel relaxed than playing home. There's more pressure playing home than playing away. But we feel better playing away and we give a fight. But today, this is just the result. We won't blame anybody. We gave our best. We are assuring you that we are coming to give a fight because it's a privilege to be in Super Six. We really gave a fight. At least 9 matches unbeaten. It's not easy for a team that was in 1 point to 1 point. It's not easy. So we losing this one is not just because we relaxed. No, they gave us a fight. At least they won us. We won them in our home. So it's just football. That is just for today.
Now, when you lose your last game 4 goals to nothing, you've qualified for the Super Six already before they came to Lagos to play FC Robo. Maybe because of that, they really they didn't put in all their effort. But that's it for the Nigerian Women's Football League. Hopefully, you get a date of when the Super Six is starting. Of course, we'll be right here to give you updates on everything concerning Nigerian Women's Football League Premiership. All right, Austin, we're coming to you right now. Maybe if you have live updates for us in the Europa League before we go to the Champions League.
Cecilia, what a story. I want you and Bolu to tell me. Tell me what can separate Sevilla and the Europa League. That union is a match made in heaven because right now it's Sevilla 2, Manchester United 0. Just as second half resumed, Sevilla doubled their lead. Remember, just before halftime, they got a goal that was, cancelled by VAR. Otherwise, it would have been 3-0. Manchester United looking for all of the answers that they can give to themselves as regards how they can handle this Sevilla team, but they are not just giving up. The game between Sporting and Juve is still 1-1, and with that result, Juve looks good to advance in the Europa League. So, Cecilia, it's as competitive as the UEFA Champions League. People will say, forget the fact that it's being played on a Thursday. We're seeing beautiful football, particularly that one between Sevilla and Manchester United.
Interesting. All right, let's quickly go to the UEFA Champions League. The game played last night between Real Madrid and Manchester City. Austin, I mean, between Manchester City and, of course, Bayern. I mean, because Pep is already reacting, what's going to happen? And maybe I'm just looking forward to the Real Madrid match. Maybe that's the reason, because this is the worst time to actually play a team like Manchester City because of their current form, 14 games unbeaten. But then last night, it was all about, it ended in a draw. Bayern could have done something, but somehow Manchester City, they just didn't want to give it. Haaland missed a penalty. Of course, he had to, more like do justice, ensure that, yes, he gets his own goal before Bayern put one back. But
he did, Olivier, do you remember the other game, AC Milan, Giroud missed a penalty, then later got a goal for them. I told guys that Real Madrid winning against Man City would be probably experience, mentality, the psyche, winning, like, let me use those things words, winning off the field before the game starts. Because on the balance of play, on the field, man for man, player for player, City looks like a team that really, really wants to. And what Pep has done with them playing 4 central defenders in the Champions League, when defending they have for, when attacking, John Stones joins the midfield, and it becomes another Rodri for them. The way Man City are playing, and when they are on this roll, they can win 10, 12, 15 games on the bounce, which makes it difficult. All these years, they've been talking about quadruple, and they ended up winning maybe 1 or 2. This season that they are quiet, they look like they can win the treble because they're in the semi-final of the Carabao, the FA Cup. They look like favorites to win that one. They look like favorites, despite being 4 points behind us now, to win the Premier League. And now the Champions League, if they can go past Real Madrid, I think they will win. I believe whoever wins between them goes all through. Bayern Munich probably will have themselves to blame yesterday's game. They started well, but Sané missing chances, selfishness among the team. Choupo-Moting obviously just returned from injury. It was not there all through. He didn't give his A game, but you still have to give kudos to both Ederson and the entire back four of Manchester City. They look in a good shape to win the Champions League this year. Yeah, for the first time, I saw a very solid Manchester City defense. Those guys were selfish. Nothing will go through them. Austin, when you were watching that game, you believe that they actually won the game in the first leg when they won 3 goals to nothing?
I told you, Cecilia, I said it to you on Tuesday on this show that I listened to Pep Guardiola speak right after they played 1-1 against RB Leipzig in Germany. And right there, they renewed their commitment to go all the way in UEFA Champions League. No doubt, Bayern Munich comes with a lot of threat. Bayern Munich comes with a lot of tradition in the UEFA Champions League. And no team can push them away. But with the way Pep set up his team, the squad depth, Cecilia, the team is so solid that everyone understands the mission. And look, when Manchester City, they are ready to play their pressure play, no club in this world can survive it. No club, because the moment they are losing the ball, they are winning it back. So yes, after that 3-0 win, I knew it was very difficult for Bayern, and with all of the Sadio Mane and Sane issue, it wasn't good for their composure and preparation for this one. And look, when you've got that man that I keep saying it's time for us to test him. 40, how many goals now this season? Erling Haaland unstoppable. Then you know that yes, Manchester City, they are forced to reckon with this season.
Yeah, all right, let's take a listen to Pep Guardiola talking about the game against Real Madrid. Remember what happened last season? They won first leg 4-3, and second leg, they lost about 3-1. But then right now, 15 games unbeaten. This was going to happen when they play that semi-final. Let's listen to him.
To be honest, the two things. First, I'm so happy to be for 3 years in a row semi-final Champions League. To be honest, the result of 4-1 don't show what really was the two games from my point of view. I could not expect differently for the fact that how good they are, the physicality, the ideas. Bayern Munich is always. I was impressed when I live with them, and I always impressed when I play against them. But in this competition is the details. I don't believe now for the fact it's semi-final. I don't feel better than Bayern Munich at all. Like last season when we lost against Madrid, I didn't feel we were worse than Real Madrid. So in the Bundesliga, in the Premier League, 38 games, yeah, the consistency dictates. But these games is a coin. Many things in. But today the penalty that was given, so what a penalty. You can be out for this type of penalties. So that's why as a manager for already 12 or 30 years as a manager career and playing 9 or 10 semi-final Champions League, I take perspective of that. So I don't give much credit to just for the fact reach a semi-final or reach a final or reach, because many things are involved, many things.
So many things involved. When you have a player that has scored 48 goals in all competitions this season, of course, you will be proud and be ready to face Real Madrid in the second leg. Just a quick one on the other game between Inter Milan and, of course, Benfica. Inter Milan, we thought they were running away with a 3-1, and then Benfica, somehow they woke up, but it was a little too late. Ended 3-0 draw, but then at the end of the day, you trust Inter Milan to go through 5-3 on penalty by virtue of the fact that they won first leg 2 goals to nothing, and then they will be facing AC Milan. We expected Napoli to be here this time, but somehow it just didn't happen. Of course, the Osimhen factor that we talked about, but it didn't happen. But Inter Milan right now, they are, for the first time in 16 years,
since 2007,
they are in the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League.
I didn't expect Napoli to get here. I said to many people that this is their biggest achievement, a quarterfinal. Sometimes it's a mind game thing. When you've gotten to your peak, sort of, sometimes some teams, that's why we talk about Real Madrid and Champions League. Same thing we're saying about Sevilla and the Europa League. Some teams are used to getting to certain stages. Some are, these are our biggest achievement. That's why we've not seen a newbie win the Champions League. Getting to the final stage for some is just a big achievement alone. So I expected the Milano derby all through. Benfica, people talked about their own record, everything, but sometimes some teams have better pedigree in some competitions, especially the Champions. So I expected the Milan derby de la Madonnina, and we can't wait to see that. Two teams who have been somehow average in the league look to be going for the Champions League. And Inter Milan, it felt like after the 3-1, they took their feet off the pedal that, well, what was left? We've won. Fortunately for them, there was not enough time for Benfica to think about any comeback. But even if there was time, after scoring the third goal, I think they would have just locked up shop that no more. It was a good game for Inter Milan as well. It just means what a few of us expected. And obviously, it will bring more money. Having a Milan derby, the two games will be played at the same venue, the fans the same thing, and all in the same city. I think I still believe either Madrid or City will win. But one thing is certain, because it's a local derby in one side, obviously to come with a whole lot of attention, and I think there are 10 Champions League titles between the two of them. The other fixture as well, team with big boys, emotion, maybe revenge for Man City for what happened last season, and there are 14 Champions League between Madrid and Man City. You can share it anyhow you decide to share, but obviously the Inter Milan game was also a good watch. Well,
that's so mean. Austin, there's someone here who is so mean. How do you do that? Come on, it's 14-0. We know that. That's just...
but football doesn't respect those statistics, you know. For instance, this is us talking about the Milan derby that we haven't seen in a long time. In fact, when did we see 3 teams from Italy in the quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League? But now we will definitely have a team from Italy in the final of this year's UEFA Champions League. So that's football for you. For Pep's team, this is about their 5th or 6th semi-final berth, and they're 3rd in a row. So we should celebrate their consistency. And they look so good. The way they set up this season, they look so good. They've got people at the middle of the park that don't lose the ball easily, and they have a beast in front that is ready to pounce on anything. In fact, the defenders are also doing their bit. So our Pep's team look good. Let's see what football will give us when they take on Real Madrid. But I know they will not go there with the mindset of revenge, because Real Madrid don't just love the UEFA Champions League. That trophy, I think, just loves it at the Bernabeu. That's that cabinet where they put the trophy. It loves being there. So it's up to Manchester City to, you know, take their destiny into their own hands and see how they can change that ugly record.
All right, just confirmation of that fixture, semi-final fixtures we talked about. You have Real Madrid and Manchester City. Of course, you have AC Milan and Inter Milan. So this is the confirmation of the semi-final fixtures of the UEFA Champions League. Austin, Emirates, what's currently going on with Mikel Arteta?
You know, Mikel Arteta just needs all the push he can give to his players. I understand where he's standing at the moment. A lot of mind games, and he's telling his team, look, as I said earlier, it's time to take your destiny into your hands. So it's tough, Cecilia, when you've done this good work this season, and then Manchester City just comes from nowhere because they are so good at doing that. So he's just telling his team, look, it's either you win or win against Southampton at the Emirates. And they need to show that character. Remember when they played, I think that goalless result against Newcastle, Mikel Arteta warned his team that, look, when you have a chance, you take it. So against Southampton, no excuses. You had a chance to kill it off against Liverpool, you didn't. But that's a very good result for them, because that's the first point they're getting off Liverpool in about 7 seasons. So they should applaud themselves for that draw at Anfield. But against West Ham, look, you need to show character if you want to win the league title, particularly when you have a team as City chasing you. Manchester City, the last time they lost the game was, I think, the 2nd of February. And the way they're going, they're not going to lose any game. So for Mikel Arteta and his team, it's a wake-up call. It's saying to them, look, you can no longer be throwing away these chances. And they need to prove a point against Southampton, Cecilia.
Prove a point they must. We have time. We can listen to Mikel Arteta, his words, talking about the game against Southampton this weekend.
Very confident, and twists and turns are part of anything that you do, especially in football, whatever the aim or the target it is, and it's not going to be always a linear progression, and you have to know that, and you have to be prepared for that. And the way the team reacted was incredibly positive, and we want to see that tomorrow night when we get into that field. So what we can say is that our players have full belief in what we do, that do know that what is at stake is incredibly beautiful, and we want to fight for it, and the best way to do it every single day, what we continue to do, and tomorrow play really well, play with our crowd every single ball, create an incredible atmosphere, and win that game. That's the way he is, and he loves responsibility, but as well he puts a lot on his shoulders. And again, if he had any doubt about how much people loved him, respect him, and admire at the club, he had, I think, a very overwhelmed reaction by everybody in the building and at the club. So I think at the end it can become something very positive that can give him a big lift, because everybody reacted in an unbelievable way towards him, because he deserves it, because the way he is.
Yeah, that's him talking about what happened to Bukayo Saka after missing that penalty. All right, this is the result you have coming from Europa League, from AS Roma and Feyenoord. It's 1-0. Sevilla and Manchester United were still 2-0, and Sporting and Juventus still 1-1. Union, Gullers, and Bayer Leverkusen. Bayer Leverkusen not smiling in this one, so this is what it is looking like. So, Austin, we have to wrap it up and go. It's time.
What a story in the Europa League. To think about it, that Union won the first leg, and now Bayer Leverkusen turning it around. Same thing with Roma and Feyenoord. If it stays that way, then it will go into penalties. But it seems it's goodbye for Manchester United and the Europa League. That's the show in London. I'm Austin Okonakpan, and everything you do, remember, let's keep talking sports. Bye for now.
Bolu, thanks so much for coming.
Good to be again. Just to know that there are sports and there's football.
Okay, there's sport, there's football. Of course, football is the king of all sport. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cecilia Omogbe. Have a good night rest.